Shalom, shalom, Israel, Shabbat shalom to all Israel out there scattered abroad. Welcome back to another read along series. I'm your host, Officer Ivan with Strong Tower Israelite School. We back with the read along series. I had to get everything, dressed up, create thumbnails, and simply, get back on track with this read along series. And we're going to pick up in this read along series in the Song of Solomon. All right, the Song of Solomon. But before we get into that, I want to give all praise to the Most High Yahweh for allowing us to be in this truth, to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments, and to think upon his ways. It's very important for us to continue to, endure in this truth, to keep these commandments in the faith of our Lord Yahweh Shai, and to try our best, man, to overcome the things that we may be dealing with physically, mentally, spiritually. All right. So I want to say that Shabbat Shalom, meaning happy Sabbath to all Israel out there that may be tuned in on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and also on the Clubhouse room, which is the Prodigals. I want to say Shabbat Shalom to all of y'all out there. Hopefully everybody is in good spirits and, simply doing their best to remain focused in this truth and to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. I give all honor and praise to the Most High Yahweh for allowing us to continue in this truth, to meditate in his word, to apply his words, and to simply, understand what we got ourselves into when we chose to serve the Lord. The scripture says, when you come to serve the Lord, prepare your soul for temptation. I mean, it's going to be ups and downs in this truth. Everything is not going to always be up and up. There's going to be some ups. There's going to be some downs. There's going to be some constant consistency in this truth. But through all trials and tribulations, through all positivity, we still want to remain dedicated to this truth at all times. So I want to give all honor and praise to the Father for that. Also, y'all make sure y'all share all those other read-along series that we have done, especially if y'all have liked them, if y'all have participated in them. Put them out there, man. Share them. Go back and watch them. Because it's all beneficial for all of us. All right. So once again, welcome back to the Read Along series. We're continuing in the Song of Solomon. I like to think of the Song of Solomon as a poetic book. It's more so a book of deep understanding, used as an allegory to Solomon's love life, also the specifics of the love that the Lord had for Israel, because it's not simply, as we read the Song of Solomon, it's not simply going into something that's face value. It has a deeper meaning to it, meaning allegorical. Meaning when you read the Song of Solomon, understand that it's an allegory, meaning that it can be a story, a poem, or any deep meaning that can be pretty much displayed as telling the meaning of something that's very simple. What do I mean? Solomon is simply going into the whole relationship between a woman and a man, or from a perspective of a woman, from the perspective of Solomon, from the perspective of Solomon speaking of the children of Israel and their relationship with the Most High God and Yahweh Shai himself, the relationship between Yahweh Shai and the church, meaning Israel also. So it goes into more deeper meaning than actually we're reading. A lot of people like to read the Song of Solomon because they think it's just a love letter. That's if you read it for face value. There's nothing wrong with that. But also we got to understand that Solomon also was a man of deep understanding. And he used a lot of parables. He had a lot of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. So some things that he wrote in the Song of Solomon that is actually, pinpointing the relationship that he had with the nation of Israel, and also the relationship that the Lord had with his people, that special bond. All right. So before I read, I have this paragraph in my Bible that gives like a good summation of what the Song of Solomon is about. And I'm gonna read that before we get into the reading of the Song of Solomon, because I think it does a great job of giving the understanding of what the Song of Solomon is going into. All right, so let me read that right quick. Get your Bibles out, get your highlighters out, Get your notepads out, because like I always like to do, I like to tell y'all, listen, you may want to highlight this passage, or you may want to highlight this verse, because it can be a precept to something, an understanding that we teach. Meaning, if I come across a precept now and we teach that, we have to still keep the laws and the laws are not done away with, I may say, listen, you may want to highlight this because you can use this verse as a precept. All right. So that's why I always tell y'all, before we begin, make sure you have your highlighters, make sure you have your Bibles open and your notepads out. All right. So let's get straight into it, y'all. Also understand, man, that this is a read along series that you also can join into. If you want to join into this read along series, make sure that you click on the link. I'm about to share the link right now. And also, if you like the read along series, just share. If you have any questions, comment, and I answer your questions to the best of my ability. All right. So let me share this link with y'all right quick. All right. And we're going to get straight into it. Okay, y'all. So let's go straight into it. I'm gonna read this paragraph right quick, giving us a summation of what the Song of Solomon is about. All right, this is the Song of Solomon. It says the Song of Solomon is a love song written by Solomon and abounding in metaphors and oriental imagery. Historically, it depicts the wooing and wedding of shepherdess by King Solomon and the joys and heartaches of wedding love. Allegorically, meaning the deeper meaning of it, it pictures Israel as God's betrothed bride, Hosea 2:19 through 20, and the church as the bride of Hamashiach. As human life finds its highest fulfillment in the love of man and woman, so spiritual life finds its higher fulfillment in the love of God for his people and Hamashiach for his church. The book reads like scenes in a drama with three main speakers, the bride, the Shulamite, the king Solomon, and a chorus, daughters of Jerusalem. The Hebrew title, Shir Hasharim, comes from 1:1, the Song of Songs. This is the superlative and speaks of Solomon's most exquisite song. The Greek title, Asma, Asmaton, and the Latin, Catacom, Catacorum, also means Song of Songs, or the best song. The name Canticles, song, is derived from the Latin title because Solomon is mentioned in 1:1. The book is also known as the Song of Solomon. All right, so that's just a brief summary of what the Song of Solomon is about, written by Solomon, of course. So let's get straight into it, y'all. This is the Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 1. It says the Song of Songs, which is Solomon. So we always want to highlight the first verse because it gives you the author of this book. The title do and the first verse do. So if you come across anybody say, who wrote the Song of Solomon? I mean, the book itself should tell them that, but go to the first verse and it tell you. He is the author of the Song of Solomon. It says the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. It says, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine. Because of the Savior of thy good ointments, thy name is as ointment poured forth. Therefore do the virgins love thee. All right. Draw me, we will run after thee. The king have brought me into his chambers. We will be glad and rejoice in thee. We will remember thy love more than wine. The upright love thee. Now, we want to also we see that we've seen a significance between love and wine. Wine is symbolic of putting you in good moods. All this is like good feelings. Wine puts you in a good mood of feeling if you do it moderately. Just like if you quote unquote in love, it can pretty much uplift your spirits. But the reason why I want to highlight the wine part is because it shows you that wine is not a bad thing. If you in modern day Christianity, they tell you that drinking is a sin. You can't drink. But still, if you read the scriptures, it's clear. Wine is not bad. You can drink wine. You can drink strong drink. But understand, you can't overindulge. You can't become a drunkard. The Lord himself was called a wine bibber, but the Lord wasn't a drunk. All right. So if you want to drink your little wine, to put yourself in a good mood, by all means, but don't be a drunkard. All right. So we want to highlight verse 2. All right. Highlight verse 2. All right. Read verse 3. It says, because of the Savior of thy good ointments, thy name is as ointment poured forth. Therefore do the virgins love thee. Draw me, we will run after thee. The king hath brought me into his chambers. We will be glad and rejoice in thee. We will remember thy love more than wine. The upright love thee. I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. So now we see a depiction of Solomon. He says, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Now, we want to highlight that because it's giving you a depiction of, Solomon. He says, I am black but comely. That's the equivalent of us saying that I am black and I'm beautiful. Comely goes into handsome, beautiful, pretty, uh, yeah, I just keep it at that. All right, so we definitely want to highlight verse 5. All right, highlight verse 5. Showing you, yes, man, Solomon himself was a black man. All right, a black man. So we can't get so caught up into what they showing us in the media today. They every day like to depict everybody as white. Yahweh Shai white / Jesus is white. God is white. The angels is white. Solomon is white. The Egyptians is white. Everybody's just white out here. But when you actually look in the scriptures and you read the scriptures for yourself, a lot of these people, they describe themselves, especially when they in a drought. When it's a famine, they say, listen, man, my skin is dark upon me because of the famine. Solomon right here saying, I'm black and I'm beautiful, So we got to pretty much take this and embrace this. Like, yes, our people, this Bible is a black book, quote unquote. When I say black, I'm not talking about the color black. I mean, like, it's black, brown, your skin, brown. But they like to put that title of black on us. But nobody is this colors. Nobody is that color. If I see somebody that color, I'm running, So understand, y'all. We are brown. We are dark people. The best thing to say that we are a dark people, very dark. All right. So let's read verse 6. It says, look not upon me because I am black, because the sun have looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard have I not kept. Now, this is a deeper meaning right here in verse 6. We want to highlight this. It says, look not upon me because I am black, because the sun have looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard have I not kept. Solomon is simply saying that his duty as a king, we understand. Let me look up a precept right quick to show you about Israel being the vineyard. Because this is a perfect example right here. All right. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 5. Isaiah chapter 5. Isaiah chapter 5, and I think it's verse, let me see. Five and verse, verse 7. All right, this is the book Isaiah chapter 5, verse 7. It says, for the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, but behold oppression, for the righteousness, but behold oppression, for righteousness, but behold a cry. So we definitely want to highlight this precept right here because it's going to correlate to what Solomon is saying in the Song of Solomon. What is Solomon saying? All right. We're going to highlight verse 7 in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 7, because it shows you that Israel is the vineyard of the Lord, that pleasant plant. that the Lord take care of. He nourish it, he water it, but he also will burn it if it goes contrary to his law. All right, all right. So, and that's another good, when I say burn it, that's when people burn like the garden and stuff like that. That is a sign of cleansing. When you burn land and you pretty much burn it so they can pretty much refurbish itself to start over. That's what I mean. The Lord would simply burn Israel, judge it, in order for it to start over and us to get our mind right and repent. We have to understand it as a nation of people. All right, so let's go back to the Song of Solomon. I had dropped it. Let's go back to that. The Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 6. It says, "Look not upon me because I am black, because the sun have looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard have I not kept." Solomon was the king over Israel, but he didn't keep the vineyard. He didn't protect the vineyard. He pretty much went off. How? Because he went off into idolatry. He started serving other gods and marrying strange women that turned his heart away from the Lord, which altered the vineyard, the house of Israel, of the Lord. That's how he pretty much didn't keep the vineyard. That caused the split of Israel. The northern kingdom going a certain type of way and the southern kingdom going their own way. So we gotta understand that Solomon in the mental state of reminiscing, like, listen, man, they made me the keeper of the vineyard. I was set up as king to be over Israel, but I have not kept my own vineyard. I haven't done it. His own vineyard also was his household. He didn't keep his house in order because he allowed them women to turn his heart away from the Lord. All right, so we want to highlight verse 6. Highlight verse 6. All right. All right, let's read verse 7. It says, "Tell me, O thou, whom my soul loveth, where thou feedest, where thou makest thy flock to rest at noon. For why should I be as one that turn aside by the flocks of thy companions? If thou know not, O thou fairest among women, go thy way forth by the footsteps of the flock, and feed thy kids beside the shepherd's tents. I have compared thee, O my love, to a company of horses in Pharaoh's chariots. Thy cheeks are comely with rows of jewels, thy neck with chains of gold." Now this verse right here, I've seen a lot of brothers and sisters think that this verse right here is talking about, it says, "Thy cheeks are comely with rows of jewels, thy neck with chains of gold." You got to go into the type of adornment that the women wore in ancient times. When it was time for them to be married, they literally had the veil on, and they had the jewels that dropped down, chains that dropped down from their garments to show that they was going into the marriage chamber to be married, or to the wedding to be married. There was a type of wedding garment that women of old wore, when it was time for them to pretty much be married. All right, so I know brothers have been teaching this a long time that it's talking about men and sisters with golds in their teeth. That's a stretch, because it's literally going into I forgot the name of it. The ancient garments that women used to wear, where they had to have like the gold chains and stuff hanging from their garments. I gotta look that up. But I literally had did some research on this, and it pretty much came to that, you know. But we've been teaching like that for a long time. That it's talking about men with golds and stuff in their teeth, but that's a stretch, man. It's not really talking about that. Let me see if I can find a picture to show y'all. Uh, Bell with chains. Let me see if I can find it. I think, yeah, it's something like this. And it simply is just a depiction, y'all. Let me see if I can blow this up. Hopefully, it's going into the looks of how women was adorning themselves during that time. You know, this was a bridal face veil. You see how she has like her whole head covered, and then you see how like got all these chains and stuff coming from her cheeks. This is basically what it's talking about. It's not talking about goals in your mouth. You know, we try to relate this and make it seem, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, but we got to keep it, you know, we got to pretty much allow it to line up with what the scriptures is saying, y'all. It's the verse 10 says, thy cheeks are comely with rows of jewels, thy neck with chains of gold. It's talking about this imagery right here when the women was about to be married and they put these types of garments and these type of veils on to show her that they was pretty much going to be married. This was their attire. All right. So hopefully that would resonate with some brothers and sisters. I know we've been teaching it like that for a very long time, but it's not going into that. All right. It's not. All right. So let me stop sharing that. All right. I think I shared that with y'all. Hopefully y'all saw it. Yeah. Let me see. All right. So let's continue. Let's continue. All right. Verse 10 says, thy cheeks are comely with rows of jewels, thy neck with chains of gold. We will make the borders of gold with studs of silver. You see, it says we will make the borders of gold with studs of silver. While the king sitteth at his table, my spikenard sendeth forth the smell thereof. So it's talking about a woman, a married woman, coming into the king's presence with her wedding garments on. That's what that's talking about. All right. So we want to highlight verse 10, 11, and 12. All right. Let's continue. Verse 13. It says, a bundle of myrrh is my well beloved unto me. He shall lie all night between my breasts. My beloved is unto me as a cluster of campfire in the vineyards of Engaddi. Behold, thou art fair, my love. Behold, thou art fair. Thou hast dove eye. Thou hast dove's eyes. Behold, thou art fair, my beloved, yea, pleasant. Also, our bed is green. The beams of our house are cedar, and our rafters of fir. You know, and this puts you in the mindset of it coming from a woman's perspective. She's describing how their bed chamber look. She's describing how she comes between the comes in the presence of the king, but she smelled like. She's describing how his eyes look. You know, so this is simply a woman who's caught up in the moment, you know, of being in the presence of the king. That's why when I read that summary, it shows you it's the relationship between a husband and a wife. It's a relationship between the father and Israel. It's a relationship between Yahushua and the church. You know, so all these things is not to be taken as face value, has deeper meaning to it. All right. Verse 13. Okay, that was it. I think that was it for that chapter. All right. So let's continue in the Song of Solomon. The Song of Solomon, chapter 2. Let me see. Give me a minute, y'all. All right. All right. This is the Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 1. It says, I am the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys. As the lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters. As the apple tree among the trees of the wood, so is my beloved among the sons. I sat down under his shadow with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. All right, now this rose of Sharon, this is also in another place. All right, I am the rose of Sharon. Let's look that up. Give me a minute. Oh, I saw this in another place. Maybe it's here. Not interested. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, well, this is giving me something else. Yeah, this is giving me something else. All right, let's continue. This giving me something else. All right, this is the book of the Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 1. It says, I am the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys. As the lily among thorns, so is my love among the daughters. As the apple tree among the trees of the wood, so is my beloved among the sons. I sat down under his shadow with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. He brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love. Stay me with flagons, comfort me with apples, for I am sick of love. His left hand is under my head, and his right hand doeth embrace me. I charge you, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and by the hens of the field, that ye stir not up nor awake my love till he please. The voice of my beloved, behold, he cometh leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills. My beloved is like a roe or a young hart. Behold, he stand behind our wall. He looketh forth at the windows, showing himself through the lattice. My beloved spake and said unto me, rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. For lo, the winter is past, the rain is over and gone. The flowers appear on the earth. The time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in our land. The fig tree putteth forth her green figs, and the vines with the tender grape give a good smell. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away. Verse 14, O my dove, that art in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the stairs, let me see thy countenance, let me hear thy voice. For sweet is thy voice, and thy countenance is come, And the brother used to make jokes right here, verse 14. All right, it says in this Solomon, he says, "Oh my dove that are in the clefts of the rock." We laugh at this verse because Solomon had many strange wives, and ones that dwelled in the clefts of the rock, those was the Edomites. All right. So Solomon had wives of the Edomites which dwelt in the clefts of the rock. He's pretty much talking about, oh my dove, thou art in the clefts of the rock, in the secret places of the stairs. Let me see thy countenance. Let me hear thy voice, for sweet is thy voice, and thy countenance is comely. So we gotta understand, man, that this book is very poetic. Solomon write these things to his wives. He also write it in allegorical form for the relationship between the father and Israel, and also Yahweh Shah in the church. All right. Well, my computer keep doing that, man. All right. But yeah, I just wanted to say that because that's literally that's what we used to pretty much say right here in verse 14. All right. Let's highlight, well, I wouldn't say highlight it, but I'm gonna highlight it. Verse 15, it says, take us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vines, for our vines have tender grapes. My beloved is mine, and I am his. He feedeth among the lilies until the daybreak, and the shadows flee away. Turn, my beloved, and be thou like a roe or a young hart upon the mountains of Bether. Now, I wanted to point some out right here because it pinpoints certain things that the Lord like. And I'm gonna try to tie this in. It says something about the lilies. All these things are all these uh words that Solomon used in chapter 2, like the significance of the fig tree in this time of season, also the significance of the lily. How also he says something else right here, and let me see. Uh, Shall the great left fruit was sweet. He brought me in the banquet house, and he brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner was over me with love. Yeah, and also in verse 4, he says, he brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me was love. Stay me with flagons, comfort me with apples, for I am sick of love. His left hand is under my head, and his right hand doeth embrace me. The reason why they like to parallel this with Yahweh Shai in the church is this reason right here. Let's go to uh, all right. Let's go to Matthew chapter 25, verse 1. All right, Matthew chapter 25, verse 1. Because the Song of Solomon, man, it's going a lot into marriage, the significance of the king, the roles of Sharon, all right, how the virgins love him. And this all plays into how the Lord pretty much depicts his church as his bride, you know. So let's go to Matthew chapter 25, verse 1. It says, then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, behold, the bridegroom cometh. Go ye out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, no, not so, lest there be not enough for us and you. But go ye rather to them that sell and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went in with him to the marriage, and the doors were shut. All right. So I'm not going to read all that. I just want to show you that this is going a lot into marriage. How the virgins love the rose of Sharon, which is symbolic of Yahweh Shai. That's symbolic of the marriage. When the Lord returns, he's looking for those who are ready. Those who are not ready, guess what? The doors are going to be closed before them, meaning they're not going to get in the kingdom. All right. So a lot of this goes into marriage, y'all. It's very deep. Another thing, let me bring out the one about the lilies. All right. All right, let's go to this is in Apocrypha, 2nd Ezra chapter 5, verse 24. 2nd Ezra chapter 5, verse 24. Because the Lord has favors. He have things that he chooses. All right. He has favors. 2nd Ezra chapter 5, verse let's start at verse 23. 2nd Ezra chapter 5, verse 23. All right, and this is in the Apocrypha. 2nd Ezra chapter 5, verse 23. It says, and said, O Lord, that bearest rule of every wood of the earth and of all the trees thereof, that has chosen thee only one vine. We understand that we went into that vine. It was talking about Israel. The Lord have chosen one vine. It's also going into his vineyard. It's going into the vine that he chosen. It says, and of all the lands of the whole world, thou hast chosen thee one pit. All right. And all of all lands of the whole world, thou hast chosen thee one pit, and of all the flowers thereof, one lily. So the Lord chooses everything that he likes. He has a favorite vine, he has a favorite land, he has a favorite flower, which is the lily. Verse 25, it says, and of all the depths of the sea, thou hast filled thee one river. And of all builded cities, thou hast hallowed Zion unto thyself. That city Zion is also going into Jerusalem. All right. Also, I meant to point that out. The land that is going in is going into the land of Israel. All right. Verse 26, it says, and of all the fowls thou art created, and of all the fowls that are created, thou hast named thee one dove. You see how we've been reading the Song of Solomon. It talks about how his eyes were like dove eyes and things like that. All these things have significance between the relationship that the Lord have with his people and the things that the Lord love. All right. Meaning his creations, he have favorite creations, and he's going to simply use those things in allegory to describe the king or something that he simply loves. All right, so let's read verse 26 again. It says, and of all the fowls that are created, thou hast named thee one dove, and of all the cattle that are made, thou hast provided thee one sheep. The Lord loved the sheep above all cattle. All right, it says, and among all the multitudes of the people, thou hast gotten thee one people. And unto this people whom thou lovest, thou gavest a law that is approved of all. So we understand that that people that the Lord, that he loved is the nation of Israel, because he only gave them the law. All right. So I just wanted to point that out so we won't get lost, when we read the Song of Solomon. All these things that are being said in this book has a significance to it. All right. So where I stop at? Okay, verse 17. This is the book of the Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 17. All right, it says, until the day break and the shadows flee away, turn my beloved, and be thou like a roe or a young hart upon the mountains of Bether. All right, so we're going to continue in this, y'all. If y'all have any questions now, make sure y'all leave a comment. If y'all like the live stream so far, hopefully, I'm not butchering this, because at the end of the day, the Song of Solomon is a deep book. I'm not going to act like I just know it all, because I don't. I'm trying to tie it in to the best of my ability, That's why I read that summary. All right. This is the book of the Song of Solomon, chapter 3, verse 1. All right. The Song of Solomon, chapter 3, verse 1. It says, by night on my bed, I sought him whom my soul loved. I sought him, but I found him not. Now, this whole book right here can actually be like and that's why I said it's kind of like a theater. It's like theatrical. It's like a poem. All right. It says, by night on my bed, I sought him whom my soul loved. I sought him, but I found him not. I will rise now and go about the city in the streets, and in the broad ways I will seek him whom my soul loved. I sought him, but I found him not. The watchmen that go about the city found me, to whom I said, saw ye him whom my soul loveth? It was but a little that I passed from them, but I found him whom my soul loveth. I held him and would not let him go until I had brought him into my mother's house and into the chamber of her that conceived me. Okay. It says, I charge you, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and by the hens of the field, that ye stir not up, nor awake my love till he be pleased. That's why when we read in that summary, it says it's been written from the perspective of a wife, a Shulamite. All right. Because it's coming from a woman's perspective of her seeking out the king. Or it can be looked from the perspective of the nation of Israel seeking the Lord. So it's all we got to keep it in that perspective. All right. And it's a little bit over PG, it's not child friendly, because at the end of the day, it is a love letter. All right. It says, verse 6, it says, who is this that cometh out of the wilderness like pillars of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, with all powders of the merchant? I want to highlight that because I'm into smells. We're going to highlight verse 6, showing you that our forefathers wasn't out here just smelling bad with cheese and, and sweat. We will frankincense, we will myrrh, different types of powders from the merchant, you know. So we want to highlight that. Verse 6. Let's read verse 6 again. It says, "Who is this that cometh out of the wilderness like pillars of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, with all powders of the merchant? Behold his bed, which is Solomon's. Behold his bed, which is Solomon's. 80 valiant men are about it, of the valiant of Israel." So you got men who's actually guarding the bed chambers of Solomon. I mean, he got a guard. All right. So we want to highlight verse 7. And this also go to show you, man, I'm into like watching like all these historical, I won't say historical, but it's more so like ancient TV shows. And it actually depicts a lot of this stuff that we read, you know, like Game of Thrones or the Viking series, you know, like movies and stuff like that. I'm into watching stuff like that because I like to see how they moved in ancient times, showing you that it actually lines up with the scriptures also. I mean, the kings did have a guard outside their bedchamber that kept watch. They had guard stationed in different types of corners in the palaces to keep watch. All these things were true, you know. So that just paint the imagery of how Solomon was moving as a king, and this is coming from a woman's perspective of how she see how the King Solomon was moving, how he kept his guards in order. That's something that the Queen of Sheba actually saw when she came to visit Solomon. She saw how he had his servants moving in operation, and she pretty much was left without words because everything was just kingdom-like. All right. Let's continue. Verse 8, it says, "They all hold swords, being expert in war. Every man have his sword upon his thigh because of the fear of in the night." I want to highlight that too. All right. And let's read verse 8 again. It says, "They all hold swords, being expert in war. Every man have his sword upon his thigh because of fear in the night. King Solomon made himself a chariot of the wood of Lebanon. He made the pillars thereof of silver, the bottom thereof of gold, the covering of it of purple, the midst thereof being paved with love for the daughters of Jerusalem. Go forth, O ye daughters of Zion, and behold King Solomon with the crown wherewith his mother crowned him in the day of his espousals, and in the day of the gladness of his heart." You know, it's crazy. Let me read verse 11 again. It says, "Go forth, O ye daughters of Zion, and behold King Solomon with the crown wherewith his mother crowned him in the day of his espousals." Espousals is plural. He had many espousals. He had many wives. And in the day of the gladness of his heart. We want to highlight verse 11. All right. Showing you that his mother played an important role in his espousals too. All right. She crowned him in the day of his espousals. All right. All right. All right. We're going to continue, y'all. We're going to continue. All right. Verse 4. It says the book, I'm sorry, not verse 4, chapter 4. It's the Song of Solomon, chapter 4, verse 1. It says, "Behold, thou art fair, my love. Behold, thou art fair. Thou hast dove's eyes within thy locks. Within thy locks, thy hair is as a flock of goats that appear from Mount Gilead." Now we understand that Solomon had locks. We're not talking about dreadlocks. When we talk about locks, we're talking about when you go into that Hebrew word of locks, it says that hair that glide over each other. Lock in the Hebrew goes into hair that glides over each other. So Solomon had braids, which can lock and they can also be unlocked. I know that a lot of brothers and sisters, you know, in this truth, they are so caught up in, you know, the understanding of what locks is that goes into like dreadlocks. And they're more so plats, or what is another word for them? They're plats. No, they're not. Is there plats? What is that called when they come together? No, when the hair come together and they just matted. Right, that's the word I'm looking for. Uh, a lock is not it's not a matted look. I have to do a class on that because I did some research on that. When you go into the history of what all people wear today as dreadlocks, it's a dreaded look. And that goes back to the East Indians celebrating their gods, how they had that matted, unclean look. That's not the locks of the scriptures. True locks, according to the scriptures, they supposed to glide over each other, meaning like a braid or a plait. Not like a matted look that can't be maintained, and the hair dies when it's together and it get discolored and it looks unclean. Hopefully some brothers and sisters can receive this, because that's what that actual word lock goes into. When you look it up in the Hebrew, it goes into hair gliding over each other. All right. So don't be so sensitive about your hair. It's just hair. All right. Let's read verse 1 again. Chapter 4, verse 1. It says, "Behold, thou art fair, my love. Behold, thou art fair. Thou hast dove's eyes within thy locks. Thy hair is as a flock of goats that appear from Mount Gilead." I forgot to highlight verse 1, because it's depicting how Solomon's hair looked. All right. And this has when we read stuff like this, man, this has to be our people. This is not Esau we reading, the quote unquote white man. We not read Esau. Because when you look at your own people, you see that we ourselves, we wear the braids, we wear the plaits, we wear the twists, we quote unquote wear the so-called locks today. It's talking about us as a nation of people. All right. It's talking about us. Give me a minute, y'all. I'm having a problem with my laptop. Hopefully they'll go off. But let's continue. Verse 2, it says that thy teeth are like a flock of sheep that are even shorn, which came up from the washing, whereof every one bear twins, and none is bearing among them. So she's talking about the straightness and the cleanliness of Solomon's teeth. Said his teeth is straight, meaning she comparing it to it says, whereof everyone bear twins. When twins look alike, the sheep, they look alike when they've been shorn. They're white, they're shorn, and they look alike as twins. So he's comparing his teeth to like that, like he had clean, straight teeth. It says, whereof everyone bear twins, and none is bearing among them. Thy lips are like a thread of scarlet, and thy speech is comely. Thy temples are like a piece of a pomegranate within thy locks. Thy neck is like the tower of David, builded for an armory, whereon there hang 1,000 bucklers, all shields of mighty men. Thy two breasts are like two young roes that are twins, which feed among the lilies. Until the day break and the shadows flee away, I will get me to the mountain of myrrh and to the hill of frankincense. Thou art all fair, my love. There is no spot in thee. Come with me from Lebanon, my spouse, with me from Lebanon. Look from the top of Amana, from the top of Shinar and Hermon, from the lions' dens, from the mountains of the leopards. Thou hast ravished my heart, my sister, my spouse. Now it's coming from a male's perspective, just switched. Verse 9. It says, thou hast ravished my heart, my sister, my spouse. Thou hast ravished my heart with one of thine eyes, with one chain of thy neck. How fair is thy love, my sister, my spouse? How much better is thy love than wine, and the smell of thy ointments than all spices? Thy lips, O my spouse, drop as the honeycomb. Honey and milk are under thy tongue, and the smell of thy garments is like the smell of Lebanon. A garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse, a spring shut up, a fountain sealed. Thy plants are an orchard of pomegranates with pleasant fruits. camphire and spikenard and saffron, calamus and cinnamon, with all trees of frankincense, myrrh and aloes, with all the chief spices, a fountain of gardens, a well of living waters, and streams from Lebanon. Awake, O north wind, and come thou south, blow upon my garden, that the spices thereof may flow out. Let my beloved come into his garden and eat his pleasant fruits. Okay. All right. We'll let that breathe. Let that breathe right there now. All right. Yeah. Man, listen. All right. It's something else I wanted to highlight in chapter 4. All right. I want to highlight verse 7. All right. It says, Thou art all fair, my love. There is no spot in thee. Of course, this right here is going into how she's describing the appearance of Solomon. All right. But I want to point out also that this can tie in to how Yahushua was also without spot. It can also go into without sin. All right. Let's go. Let me pull a precept right quick. Because I don't want this to just simply be carnal. You know, the Song of Solomon can be a very carnal book, meaning simply fleshly. I want to tie some type of spiritual element into it because it does symbolize a deeper meaning too. Because we understand that the true king is Yahushua the Mashiach. All right. No. Okay. All right. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 5, verse 27. All right. All right. This is the book of Ephesians chapter 5, verse let's start at verse 25. It says, Husband, love your wives, even as Yahushua also loved the church and gave himself for it. All this parallel to what we're reading right now in the Song of Solomon, the relationship between a husband and a wife. The same exact relationship that we're supposed to have with our wives. It says, Husbands, love your wives, even as Yahushua loved the church. You know, we're supposed to love our wives like Yahushua loved us as a nation of Israel, the church. All right. It says that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the words. The same exact way that the Lord cleanses and washed us with the word. That's what he taught us, the word which cleansed us. The same way we're supposed to sit and sup with our wife and teaching them the word by washing them with the word. That's why the scripture says, I'm going to pull the precept. It says to sit with your wives and understand it. Let me see if I can pull that right quick. Your wives in understanding. According to knowledge. That's what it is. According to knowledge. Now let's go to First Peter. Just a quick sidebar. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. First Peter chapter 3, verse 7. All right, this is the book of First Peter chapter 3, verse 7. You know, I want to read up. Let's go to First Peter chapter 3, verse 5. It says, For after this manner in the old time, the holy women also, whom trusted in God, adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husbands, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well and are not afraid with any amazement. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge. That's how we're supposed to dwell with our wives, according to knowledge, according to this word. The same exact way that Yahushua dwelled with the church, Israel, according to the word. All right, we're supposed to dwell with our wives the same exact way. All right. Verse 7, it says, likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. All right. So let's go back to Ephesians chapter 5, verse 26. It says that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish. And that's a parallel to what we read in the Song of Solomon. You know how she's simply saying that for my love there is no spot in thee. That's between a husband sin with his wife according to knowledge, making sure there's no spot in her. She need to be a reflection of you, that you should have no spot in you. The same as that way that Yahushua didn't have no spot in him, or he did no sin. The same as that way he want the church to be a reflection of himself. You see how all these things go together. It simply is talking about marriage, how you should sit with each other in marriage. All right. So that was Song of Solomon chapter 4, and I said I wanted to highlight verse 7. All right, just for that reason, because I didn't want to just simply be a more carnal approach, because it's very carnal. It's simply going into a relationship. That's what I'm reading right now. All right, this is the last chapter that we're gonna read, y'all. Chapter 5. This is the Song of Solomon, chapter 5, verse 1. It says, I am coming to my garden, my sister, my spouse. I have gathered my myrrh with my spice. I have eaten my honeycomb with my honey. I have drunk my wine with my milk. I have drunk my wine with my milk. Oh, eat, O friends, drink, yea, drink abundantly, O beloved. I sleep, but my heart waketh. It is the voice of my beloved that knocketh, saying, open to me, my sister, my love, my dove, my undefiled. For my head is filled with dew, and my locks are with the drops of the night. I have put off my coat. How shall I put it on? I have washed my feet. How shall I defile them? My beloved put in his hand by the hole of the door, and my bowels were moved for him. I rose up to open to my beloved, and my hands dropped with myrrh, and my fingers with sweet smelling myrrh upon the handles of the lock. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had rejoined himself and was gone. My soul fell when he spake. I sought him, but I could not find him. I called him, but he gave me no answer. The watchmen that went about the city found me. They smote me. They wounded me. The keepers of the walls took away my veil from me. I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if ye find my beloved, that ye tell him, I am sick of love. What is thy beloved more than another beloved, O thou fairest among women? What is thy beloved more than another love, that thou doest so charge us? My beloved is white and ruddy, the chiefest among 10,000. His head is as the most fine gold. His locks are bushy and black as a raven. His eyes are as the eyes of doves by the rivers of waters, washed with milk and fitly set. His cheeks are as a bed of spices and sweet flowers. His lips like lilies, dropping sweet smelling myrrh. His hands are as gold rings set with the beryl. His belly is as bright ivory overlaid with sapphires. His legs are as pillars of marble set upon sockets of fine gold. His countenance is as Lebanon, excellent as the cedars. His mouth is most sweet, yea, he is altogether lovely. This is my beloved, and this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. We're going to stop right there, y'all. Now, where we going to stop at? You know, and that's how I pretty much want to simply keep trying to bring across to y'all that, man, the Song of Solomon, man, is simply going into, it's very poetic. It's very, theatrical like. and it has a lot of allegories to it. I'm not gonna catch every allegory. I can only pretty much point out what comes to me, and I try to tie it in to the best of my best ability to making it as spiritual as possible. You know, because at the end of the day, man, Solomon is also a man of wisdom. This is also a deep book, but it's not hard. It may be hard for it may be hard for some, but at the end of the day, man, when you put it all together, especially when I read the summary, it tends to come together. All right. So that's where I'm going to stop at. Hopefully, y'all got some understanding from this. It'll be a good, and I also wanted to say also, man, a lot of people in the world tend to read the Song of Solomon during their weddings. Certain passages they'd like to bring out during their wedding, showing you that this is a book about marriage, but the deeper level, you have to be taught, you have to understand what precepts and things are at like that. But at the end of the day, if you want to take it for face value and teach it from face value, you can. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's where we're going to stop at, y'all. Hopefully, y'all got some understanding from this read along series. We're going to pick back up in chapter 6. And this book is very small. It's not a long book at all. And after that, it's going to bring us into the book of Isaiah. So with that, y'all, I'm going to shut it down. Hopefully, y'all highlighted and got the precepts that I did bring up, and hopefully it brought some type of understanding to y'all. All right. So with that, I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom to all Israel that tuned in. Hopefully some brothers and sisters didn't get offended about the locks, because I know a lot of brothers and sisters are sensitive about their hair. But listen, at the end of the day, man, we have to separate ourselves from the customs of the heathen. When you have these locks in your head that look like they're matted, they're unclean, understand, man, that's not what locks are according to our culture. Just look into the words. You'll understand that that's not how our forefathers and foremothers wore their hair. It was more so like a braided look, hair gliding over each other. It glided over each other. Like how we do. We braid hair and it glides over each other. So hopefully nobody wasn't offended by that. If so, just pray about it. Once again, Shabbat Shalom. I'm Officer Iveson. See y'all next time. We're going to pick up in chapter 6, hopefully, Lord willing, Sunday. I've been having a lot of free time with my schedule, so I can pretty much go back into doing 2 days now. So hopefully I'll see y'all Sunday around the afternoon, Lord willing. And with that, I want to say y'all can tell y'all to enjoy the Sabbath day, Shabbat Shalom. If you like this read along series, make sure you share it, like it. Don't be hesitant to ask questions also, y'all. With that, I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom. See y'all next time. All right, Shalom.